Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the... I'm your host, Jim, along with my co-host,
Chevy.
And we are here to discuss Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. The shit child?
Don't
Dream child.
Don't laugh.
And we will be right back. Okay, and thank you once again, Mr. Jeff. You're listening for that intro.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
All right. So, Chef Chevy, you ready to get into this?
I don't know, man. This... You know what? I might as well just say it right now. This movie sucked.
This was... I had a hard time getting through it. I haven't seen this in probably, I'd say, a good maybe 10 years.
I watched it last night for the first time.
The whole way through, I think. I would say, yeah.
I watched it last night for the first time, and I'm going to say, since it probably came out, and when I was done watching it, the same thing ran through my mind, I think, from the first time I saw it way back when. Mm-hmm. What the hell did I just watch?
No, I didn't do any of the background notes and shit for it because I just didn't have the drive to for this movie, I guess, because it was just so bad, and I didn't think it needed
background notes.
Yeah, I don't think it needed it, but if you have any, I will gladly take it.
Well, let's see. What are we talking about whenever we talk about background notes?
Oh, quote-unquote trivia that not a lot of people would know, the IMDb stuff.
Oh, I don't know.
That a lot of people look at.
Actually, I looked a lot into, for some reason, this time, wondering why it suffered so much. Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. We had a new director,
Mr.
Steve Hopkins. A new executive producer, along with Sarah Reicher. I believe his name was John Turtle.
I like titles.
Titles, yeah.
I like titles.
The quote-unquote story by was John Skipp and Craig Spector, who actually, from what I believe and read, they actually had to try to get a lawyer to get them to even get credit in the movie, and then turned around and said, you know what, can you just put us on part 3 because this movie sucks so bad. They came up with the story. Leslie Boehm, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, took their story and went, guess what, we're going to change it all. Because he actually pitched the whole child thing for part 3, and they turned him down. And then they came for part 5 and says, hey, remember that part idea you had for the child and everything? Why don't we try doing it? So a lot of new hands in the cookie jar, trying to, I guess, make everything make somewhat sense from what I'm calling part 3. We had Kristen, part 4, Kristen goes into Alice, and we continue with Alice.
Yes, we do.
They failed miserably. This movie just, I don't know what the hell was going on. It's really hard to make sense of it.
Yeah, we do get the return of Lisa Wilcox as Alice, as well as Danny Hassel as Dan.
For a little bit.
For a little bit, but so they do try to continue a story, which is, I guess, something they didn't completely try to,
It's kind of hard.
Away.
It's kind of hard to do a movie whenever you've got 8 weeks, 4 weeks of filming, and then 4 weeks to edit it. Completely rushed. I mean, you can't do that and expect something to come out that's quality.
No, not at all. But I mean, I pretty much all I did was give the synopsis, but I did scene by scene basically. But we did open up with a nice little shower scene.
Well,
that was good.
We also opened up even before the shower scene, because I've got some notes on that too. We actually opened up, they go through everything, Robert Shea, blah, blah, blah. I finally saw it this time. Robert Englund in,
Yes,
and
sir.
they do what I kind of call a nice little throwback logo with the blades cutting the lines for A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Which is cool. I like hearing
was cool.
the noise. You hear, you
Yep.
see the blades. You know that's Freddy coming with the 4 fingers. But I like it.
And then they did the obligatory, if it's called The Dream Child, let's do the rest of the credits in chalk and that annoying screech.
Yeah.
Which just, wow.
Yeah.
But yes, then we have through the opening credits, we have the 2 bodies bathed in blue light.
Which we know is...
And once again, we opened up with a dream sequence.
Yes, it's Alice and Dan in bed. We're supposed to know that. She goes into the shower, and
All hell breaks loose.
Water fills up inside the shower, and we know that she's in a dream from the giddy up, So,
Yep.
And that's when we first see Freddy.
I thought you were going to say boobies because...
Blurry boobies.
Well, yeah. Now, my question is, I wonder if that's actually...
I don't think
Lisa
so.
Wilcox, because you really don't see the face.
No,
The glass is too blurred.
Usually
so
when
maybe it
it's-
was a stunt double.
Yeah,
or
usually
a body
when there's,
double.
Usually when there's no face, the star said, you know what, I am not going to have nudity, and then they have to get a stunt double, a body double, whatever you want to call it. That's what I've learned through
That's what I thought.
movie
That's
research,
what I
I
thought
guess.
too.
Um,
But then we see Alice go through the glass.
yes.
And she's walking down the hallway to what finally we see, and they're continuing the story from part 3. We see the 100 Maniacs all mulling around in a nice little cameo of Robert Englund out of makeup, just voguing for the camera as far as I'm concerned.
Actually, a good couple times in this movie he's without makeup, so that's pretty cool that he wanted to do that. And I'm sure that came to do with them wanting to show him without makeup to the fans, as well as probably times where he just said, I don't want to put a makeup on something,
It's a good possibility.
Because that makeup takes forever to do.
Then we have the count. Oh, the hell with it. It's 100. Let's get out of here.
And then Amanda Kruger, who Alice is
dressed
up
as Amanda Kruger. They close in on her. And
she's about to be
she's about to, And we finally, Alice is finally getting more of the backstory of what happened to Amanda Kruger.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wakes up, we think.
Yeah.
She wakes up in her dream. Dan says what's going on. He goes out of frame, and of course Robert Englund pops up as one of the 100 Maniacs. He mysteriously disappears, and then she wakes up. Hey, it's graduation day.
Yeah.
What a way to wake up for your graduation.
Which is just a clusterfuck of people and characters that had no
Let's do a
purpose.
breakdown of characters, because I've done it the last couple ones. We got Alice. She's coming back. Apparently, she either dyed her hair blonde or she dyed it red for the first one. Doesn't make a big thing of difference to me.
I looked deep into it as she was embracing Alice. Or not Alice,
Kristen?
Kristen from
You looked into it too much.
the previous. Because Kristen was blonde, and here she still probably had the powers, so let's give her blonde hair.
Yeah, we're looking too deep into it.
She doesn't look like a homeless, red-haired,
greasy
haired person.
We have Dan back again, who, once again, is just Dan. Big jock guy.
Yes.
We have Greta, and as what I've wrote down is an aspiring model with an overbearing mother and doesn't really want to follow what her mother wants to put down. And her mother is... We thought Kristen's mom was a bitch.
Yeah.
Wow. Looks like a red-haired gozer.
Kristen's mom was a bitch, but this woman was one of the quintessential mothers, like model, kid fashion show model mothers that you see about on TV. So
The 80s version of Honey Boo Boo.
I guess
I can't believe I just...
I don't want that on my show, but that's the first and last time.
Yeah. We also have Yvonne.
Yes.
She works at a hospital. We find out later.
Yes,
which is amazing.
Candy Striper.
She's been working there for a long time, and she's just graduating. Mm-hmm. She's a very good swimmer, a diver, and apparently knows how to get into the pool after hours.
They give her a key. Yes.
Yes. The last guy, and this cracks me up. So we had Will from Part 3, the Dungeons and Dragons nerd. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to rehash a character. We're just going to bring a comic book geek into it. And yes, he wants to do the comic books and he's big into it, but his only character flaw would be he's afraid of blood or the sight of blood.
Which I find a lot of people are like that, and they can deal with the animated blood, they can deal with movie blood, but they don't really like real life gore, watching hurtful videos. Like they get that release by watching and knowing it's fake, I think. And I'm pretty much one of those people. I can watch any movie under the sun and see somebody get torn apart, but I really hate watching people get hurt in real life.
Well,
you know what I mean? So I can relate to him.
I'll go with that. Where was I going with that? Oh,
After Mark.
So those are basically our main characters. We've got 5 main characters. Alice's dad went into rehab. He's no longer a stumbling, bumbling drunk.
I do like what they did with him. They made him a really good person, a very good character, and somebody that's supportive of her, even though she goes through a lot of shit in this movie, I guess.
And as little as he is in the film, I feel that they brought his character, like you said, out more, and they actually rounded him out a bit. He actually has some good morals.
He had a good character development, full circle type character.
I mean, it might not be a full, character development, but it's more of what was, in the ones beforehand. I mean, she asked him, when did you start smart shopping and everything? Since my daughter's going to have a baby, no, I'm not mad at you. So he has some good principles brought into this movie, and I applaud the people who wrote it.
Yeah.
They did a good job.
Nope. What are your thoughts on how they actually portray the parents in these movies? Because they're always pretty shitty people.
Cookie cutter.
Okay.
Cookie cutter. I mean, do
you think that they always take the easy way out to say, hey, these kids have bad parents and they don't believe in the dreams and all that kind of stuff? Do you think that was the easy way out?
You know what? There always has to be something written in antagonist, protagonist. The parents not believing all their teenagers. They don't know what's going on. We can't say that these 3 new people, Greta, Yvonne, and Mark, are part of the last Elm Street kids because Kristen was the last one. So maybe the parents this time around just really are like, what's your problem? What's going on? I don't believe you.
It seems like, though, when I watch these movies, I feel like every parent knows Freddy and the story, and they always it's their job to keep it under wraps. And maybe that's their burden they live with, and that's
why parents really know about it. Though.
Well, I think that's for us to decide.
Exactly.
So,
I really don't think they did. I think it's.
Well, how big do you think that Springwood is? I would think think about our town. I think everybody knows everything that happens in our town. So and every town has an Elm Street.
Well, that's true.
So I think that's where they come up with that. Like, everybody would have known that Freddy Krueger existed, what he did, and what the other parents did to him. And they don't want their kids to know about it. So maybe throughout the years of their kids being 17, 18 years old, maybe wears on them a little bit, and they just, I'm delving deep into this shit, but I'm trying.
Well, you know what? Like you said, it brings up a good question. The last of the Elm Street kids. Now you've got these ones. Where were they at? Is this another gaping plot hole? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But I think at this point, Freddy is just going after anybody who's close to Alice at this point.
And Freddy, speaking of Freddy, I really like the way they did his makeup in the beginning of the movie. He looks old. Mm-hmm. He looks tired. He looks bad. He looks weak.
And even when they do close-ups of his eyes, they look like it's not even like a prosthetic. It's really
very sunken.
Yeah.
He's looking like he's been trying to figure out how am I going to get back into this, and that's
But then there's a plot hole later on we'll talk about.
Oh yeah.
Did you notice the change in the song at the beginning of the movie where the last 2 words are 9-10, he's back again?
Let's see here in my notes. The rhyme changes 7-8, better stay awake. 9-10.
He's back again.
He's back again.
Yes.
So, and I did notice that. I did notice that before that they actually completed the nursery rhyme how we've known it before. But they changed this. And my big question is this. It seems like, and I have it wrote down, there's no rules anymore.
No.
Alice says, okay, I got to go to work from graduation. She's 4 hours late to work, but she's walking, and once again, there's the whole thing where she gets into this where she's following the kids, and All of a sudden, she's at Frankenfurter's castle. I'm not Frankenfurter's castle. I'm sorry. The asylum.
Shout out to Rocky Horror.
The asylum. And there's that one nice shot of the tower I expect to see in, Riff Raff. Anyways,
Yes.
Wrong movie. But to try to put it in a nutshell, she goes into the asylum. All of a sudden, she trips. She's whisked away on a gurney. She's pregnant. She's going to give birth. And all of a sudden, she sits up. They do this really, and you can tell, they slowed the camera around to give her enough time to get around to stand. So instead of her being on the gurney, she is a witness to what's going on. Amanda Kruger gives birth to one of the worst looking puppets
Deformed
that I've ever seen in my life, that goes after Alice.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden we're whisked away to the church from the end of 4. The little demonic baby Freddy, whatever, crawls into the sweater. Oh no, it's all happening again. The kid throws a shit fit, destroys the church. Guess what? Freddy's born again. And he rubs his hand on her belly, saying, more so or less saying, I have a way to come back.
Yeah.
And then she gets whisked away, opens a door, and she's in a diner. Shit doesn't happen in the sleep anymore. Whatever happened to the dream demon? I mean, once again, too many hands in the cookie jar.
And there's little things that they say throughout the movie saying that he has ways that he knows how to come back now. And to me that says, well, he shouldn't have different ways to come back. There's only supposed to be one way that he's able to be here, which is a dream.
Like I said,
spreading fear. People dream about him. He gives him his power. He kills. But now it's, okay, this woman now, Alice, he can just do whatever he wants, and now he only cares about her. And is he the dad of the baby? I don't fucking know what's going on with that shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there's no rules anymore.
And in that scene, Amanda Kruger does say, as we're watching it, I heard her clearly say, look for me in the tower.
I heard her say, look for me in the towel, and was kind of
with
the door
Alice
slamming.
Throughout the movie had no idea she was supposed to do that until the end, I guess. But I heard it just watching it.
Yeah, and and like I said, I've been into this series since we started, and this one, like I said, all the rules are out the window. It's really hard to try to follow along what was put down Elm Streets 1, 3, 2, 4. It just doesn't make sense anymore. Alice can get into people's dreams whether they're sleeping, whether they're not sleeping. She doesn't have to, be asleep anymore to dream of Freddy. He can come get her. And I understand. It's Freddy feeding the souls of people through the baby, because the baby is constantly in the dream state when we find out she is pregnant, which is the whole plot behind this whole movie. It's not that it doesn't make sense. I understand what they were trying to do as far as bringing him back, but okay, if Freddy was possessing this child with the souls of Alice's friends, when the baby was born, was Kruger reborn, or was it just trying to get him to get stronger again? Maybe I'm looking too deep into it now.
Yeah, we kind of have to, because if we take this on the surface, this will be a pretty short episode. So we kind of we have to delve in a little bit, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many things that you can take it and not know if it's true or not. I don't know. One
thing that didn't make sense to me, I mean, Dan gets the phone call at the pool, after Alice sees, the whole thing with Freddy being reborn, and she starts again. Gets in his truck, which I tell you what, looks good. That body work guy really made it look damn good from part 4 whenever she wrapped it around a tree. Anyways, He races, falls asleep behind the wheel, drives, the whole radio thing, my asshole son, the slut Alice. Freddy, more so or less, causes him to wreck, throws him through the windshield, and he lands in the pool. Okay. That made, no logical sense, but once again, it's the dream world. Runs out. Apparently, his dream self locked the keys in the truck. He gets on a motorcycle.
And goes ripping down the road.
And goes ripping down the road. Freddy turns him into Anakin Skywalker at the end of Return of the Jedi whenever Luke pulled the helmet off. He dies with a head-on collision with a Mack truck. But Alice sees, when she's in the diner, she turns around, and there goes Dan hurtling down what seems to be somebody's rectum.
Looks like it, yes.
It looks like a big butthole.
Yes.
So,
and we see
once again, is that
times.
only in her mind. What, you know?
But a couple things, yeah, I don't know. But a couple things about that scene was, you remember in New Nightmare when Heather's husband, gets killed in the truck? Do you think they threw back to this scene a little bit? He was a puppeteer, and then the glove comes in. But they both got killed in the truck, I guess I would say.
It's a good possibility.
So that's the first thing I thought of.
It's been a while since I've seen.
Yeah, well, that's the first thing that came to my mind was the truck scene in New Nightmare. Also, we get Freddy throws out the Top Gun reference, Need for Speed.
Need for Speed, and a bunch of other ones too.
Yes,
but
more of the mainstream stuff coming out in this movie too.
And you know what you just said there, that was just going to touch on that. This movie, they with the acceptance of Freddy into our society and everything, I think they pushed everything too far. The humor, it was becoming really campy. I think it was I think it was overdone, done really. I don't want to say badly, but a lot of product placement type. Absolutely.
Type writing, I guess you would say.
And, and it almost seems like Robert Englund wanted to do anything to keep this franchise alive. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, it is a paycheck for
He's a working
Robert
man.
Englund. Absolutely.
This is his character.
But, it just it seems like it started to lose its coolness to me. I mean, we don't have to, work a funny line into every single kill.
No.
And speaking of the kills,
yes,
they suffered so much in this film because of the new NC-17 rating. So there was a lot that ended up on the cutting room floor that we didn't get to see because I'm guessing the producers and Robert Shea and everybody else wanted this to be a rated R movie. And with that segue, let's watch the kills, Jim.
Yes, and that is much like what happened with Kane Hodder in Friday the 13th Part 7 when he arrived. He staged all these kills and all these brutal deaths, and if you watch that movie, every single kill is cut because he couldn't show it on film because of the rating system. Yep. And that was also out in 1988. So
89, 88, 89, something like that.
So this is around the time where all these movies were suffering because of the shitty rating system that came out, and we lost out for it. So we're going to watch the kills now.
Let's watch the kills.
Make sure that is...
Don't blink, you'll miss them, folks.
Yes, very, very short. Let's see here.
There's that callback. I love that opening.
Once again, brought to you by Carnage Count.
And here's that squeaky chalk.
Yes. Hey, there's Dan.
And now, this got me the first time I remember seeing this. Oh, never mind. They didn't show
here's
it.
the CGI. See the eyeballs.
That was really bad done.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And once again, Alice is awake.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. But she's not because he can't hear her, so she's not awake. She's dreaming, but we don't know that she's dreaming. We got the die bitch on the fridge.
To-do list.
And the non-gore deaths again. Super Freddy.
The only time anybody besides Englund played Freddy.
Yes. Because believe it or not, he's not that big.
Apparently, I don't think that guy was either. That looks like a bunch of stuff.
I did hear about this
Freddy.
years ago, but I can't remember anything about it. And then they switch. And we get the paper death. With, once again, no gore.
Well, yeah, there it is right there. The color just run out of them.
Pastel death. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, come on, man.
These kills suffered.
Give us some blood. It's a horror movie. It's a Freddy movie. This shouldn't even be rated R.
They suffered so much.
Honestly, it could pass for a PG-13, which is sad for a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Oh, there's a little bit of blood for you.
And there we go.
One kill every, say, a half hour.
Kills per minute, 0.034. And we're going to finish this out because I don't know what it is. And we get, that's pretty much the ending of the film.
Yeah, the ending of the film. And
yes, we get the little kids again. which is pretty much the universal segue for Freddy's coming back.
Exactly.
So, but we get the dad character again. He's a good man still.
Yes, he is.
Yvonne stays, which is another African American character surviving in a horror movie, which was rare back then.
What was up at the end of that with the Vincent Price laugh from Michael Jackson's Thriller? Why did we throw Vincent Price in? Was it because, hey...
Was it him or was it supposed to be Freddy?
I got news for you. That was Vincent Price.
Yeah.
I knew that back in 1989.
Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to do with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Back in the 80s, whenever we watched this stuff, we were in it for the kills. And that's the whole reason why I went to see this movie. I wanted to see, okay, how are we going to kill teenagers this time? It was the same reason why we went to go see Friday the 13th. I want to see some creative stuff.
Yeah, you don't go to horror...
But we get a paper guy that just because he's a comic book artist or an up-and-coming, he wants to be a creative mind in the world of comics, his death is he turns into a two-dimensional character and Freddy turns him into confetti.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't go to horror movies to see a storyline or complex characters. We go to see the kills, the gore, the nudity, the swearing, the carnage.
And yeah, and storyline comes second to all that. And anybody who says, well, I want to see a horror movie because of the great plot, you're a liar.
And you're not a real horror fan to me.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
A real slasher fan, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Because
slasher movies were just nothing about the body count.
That's it.
That's it.
And I feel like these films suffered because they tried to make it so complex and...
Well, okay, now
I don't get it.
Now that you say about complex, here's a little note that I wrote down about our comic book artist, Mark. The one scene. Mark's dreaming. Mm-hmm. Alice goes in. Yeah. I believe this is when they were in... This is the first time he fell asleep. This wasn't leading up to his death.
Mm-hmm. When he gets his hands cut.
Yes, when he goes into the Elm Street house. Once again, he's about ready to fall down. Freddy's wrecked him.
Wrecked him whole, yes.
Alice pulls him out. He looks at his hands. His hands are cut. He goes... he faints and disappears. Now...
In the dream.
In the dream. Okay, so did he faint and go back to the real world? We don't know. Jacob shows up, basically says Freddy's his friend. I mean, we're trying to push the plot. Okay, we get it. Jacob is Alice's unborn son. I got that from the beginning moments of you introduced Jacob whenever... We don't have a children's ward. Anyway.
Shout out to good character actor Whit Hertford, by the way. If you recognize him, if you see him, he's in a lot of stuff back then.
Yes.
Very recognizable character.
After he says, I have to go, he's calling me. He runs up the stairs to the Elm Street house. Alice pursues him. She opens a door, runs around, and now she's awake in the real world. And Mark's doing something. I don't know whether he fell asleep and woke up or passed out or whatever, because honestly, I was trying to figure out when dream world and real world, when you can run in between everything.
The whole movie was one
bad
big
editing.
micro nap, so to speak, because they pretty much can take it any way they want to.
But then again, like 10 minutes later, Alice says to Mark, hey, watch me, I'm going to fall asleep. She climbs up, goes to sleep. He falls asleep. She goes in and tries to find Yvonne, who also falls asleep. So 3 people were asleep. Alice is interacting with Yvonne, with Freddy in the pool and all that. And that's where he gets afraid. Oh, she knows. Or Freddy knows that Amanda's out here. He can't enter. Let's go find her. Wait a minute. She's either here or she's not here, or we have to find her. So while I'm guessing Yvonne and Alice do that, that's when Freddy goes after Mark. And he becomes confetti. Stuff just... It seems like they were trying to make something more complicated, or either they were trying not to complicate it and did it accidentally.
Well, I don't know. But yeah, a couple things she says is Freddy is feeding Greta and Dan to her baby. So how the hell is he feeding these people to a unborn child?
Well, we find that out whenever,
Yeah,
the whole EKG or the
sonogram, ultrasound, whatever you want to say.
Where Alice turns into, apparently Horace Pinker with the electric.
Yeah, I read the ultrasound scene, just stupidity.
Yeah.
And then a nice Johnny Depp reference as far as her telling him, "Watch me while I sleep." from throwback to the original.
Very, very much so.
And my thing is, why the hell can't these people stay awake? I've stayed awake for days on end at times when I was growing up, and these people can't stay awake for 10 minutes. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So, I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, like I said, and then, you know, Mark goes into, before Mark's death and everything, there's the whole thing about, once again, with Mark and Alice going to Alice's house, and there's Alice's father and Dan's parents talking about the baby. We want to do this, and
now it turns into Maury Povich.
Well, you know what? This movie, actually, there was a lot of stuff in it from the 80s. We're talking like, you know, big taboos, drinking and driving, teen pregnancy, and abortion. You know, I don't know if they were trying to shoehorn that in to make this some kind of, you know,
well, you got to make
political
it relevant
statement or whatever.
Relevant for the time.
But what I'm getting at in that scene is Alice's father stands up. Look, I'm behind my daughter. Whatever she wants to do, and once again, there's your character development, somewhat of possibly the only character development in the movie.
And he's
become a good person after going into rehab.
He makes a comment saying, I hope it's a boy. It'll be nice to have a boy running around here again, as a throwback to Rick getting killed in the previous movie. Yeah. So that's...
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So that makes it kind of, you know, like, wow, it's touching, I guess you could say, for a Freddy movie. Because he let what happened to his son turn him into a better person instead of what it usually does, which turn people into worse people.
You went really deep on that one, but yes. Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. Yeah, I mean,
but it was cool to hear and literally see him grow from movie to movie. I mean, and the sad thing is, he's a very minute character, I guess you would say, through the grand scheme of things. But in this movie, I think
very strong character.
He took a role and made it something that it probably wasn't written to be. But I liked his character.
And the nice thing too is, you know, and jumping back to the beginning of the movie, the whole graduation scene, you know, you had Alice walking. You look very pretty, Alice. Gee, thanks, Dad. And she walks by, and the camera catches her father, and he says, well, you did look pretty, you know. And she didn't think he was there. And, you know, he's like, I didn't want, you know, the old alcoholic, this and that. And she kind of just says, don't worry about that. Let's, you know, takes him over to where the other adults and her friends and parents are. You know, let's get you in there. Oh, I don't take pictures. And it was, like I said, it was a nice, kind of a you know, father-daughter moment.
Did you notice the man who was supposed to be seeing Dan to go to college actually sat down in a chair and took a picture with these people? It wasn't his dad. It was the guy from college.
Yeah, it was,
It doesn't make any sense. And it's only, I don't get it.
Yeah, but yeah, that was nice. The whole, you know, like I said, Alice's father is basically the only character that was kind of sort of rounded out, and anything from part 4 was brought to part 5 and resolved.
Yeah, I'd say it was. And I don't remember part 6 in any way, so I don't know where they go with it, but I think that as bad as this movie was...
Spoiler alert, nothing that takes place in Freddy's Dead has to do with 5.
I want them to keep listening. So, oh, no, it's great. You want to hear what we have to say. But I don't know. I just hope they go in another direction, I guess, because I think this arc is done as far as I'm concerned. Alice's dad's done. The baby's there. You know, I don't know. I would like to see it go in a different direction completely.
It would have been nice to have a story arc that did make sense from, let's face it, the first 2 movies before. 3 started everything. 4 was kind of the middle. 5 would have been a nice ending to these characters. We didn't get that. We got a bunch of confusion.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. In the movie, we are now, we're almost at the climax here, but the CGI asylum, when Yvonne goes into walking up the steps, going into this island to try to find Amanda Kruger. And it's just complete CGI. Like, it looks like complete shit. Did you even notice that?
I don't know. I'm not sure exactly when CGI started. But yeah, it basically looked like crap.
It looks bad, yeah.
Yeah.
And how did she know where exactly to start digging in the wall? She opens one brick, and that's where Amanda is.
It was in the script.
That's the only way she would know. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And let's talk... Well, I tell you what, why don't we take a slight pause and let's get into the ending of this shit show, because I got some other fun things to try to bring up about the ending of this movie.
Yeah, we'll come back and we'll finish out this film. We'll be right back. Okay, now we're going to finish out here with the climax, and you can give your thoughts on it. To me, there's a lot of shit going on, but all right, basically we get Yvonne going in to look for Amanda's bones, I guess you could say.
In the real world.
In the real world, because she is buried in the wall. And Mark did make a comment saying that she was hung, but it's not really what happened.
She hung herself after the trial. She never left the asylum.
Yes. And
the marker that we saw in Elm Street 3, when Neil walked around and saw the tombstone, it was an empty grave. It was just a memorial marker. They never knew what happened to her.
Yeah, so there's no body in the grave at all. It's in the walls of this building. And Yvonne...
It would have been better if it was in the walls.
Yeah. And Yvonne goes into there to take a break out and happens to find Amanda in there.
And then she becomes a bulldozer.
Apparently, yeah. And we see the bones collapse in this perfectly white nun outfit.
Yeah, while all this is going on, while Yvonne is running around trying to do Alice's dirty work in the real world, Alice goes to sleep, tries to find Freddy.
Yes.
And we go Alice versus Freddy and Jacob, who's teetering between good and evil. We get Alice coming in. She attacks Freddy with the baby stroller and pushes him down the steps. The maniacs start attacking him. Tear him apart.
And they rip his arm off, is all we see. I don't know what else they do.
Too.
And we get the nice MC Escher scene. How would you feel about that? The walking up the steps, going down the steps, walking up the steps, going down the steps.
Yeah.
Something that another thing they tried to throw in there, I guess, to make it more mainstream looking, I guess.
I don't know if they did. They did it just because, hey, once again, it's their dream world. Freddy can do whatever he wants to because he wants to come back.
Yes, and
he's just going to throw everything at Alice just to get his goal.
Yeah, and after the maniacs attack Freddy, which meant nothing because he comes right back out of it. His arms are a little fucked up, and and that's pretty much it. He comes out of Alice, so showing us that he is a part of her, I guess you could say.
Yep.
When Yvonne finds Amanda, she turns and says thank you, and then disappears.
Hold up. Let's get into that.
Yes.
Yvonne finds the remains of Amanda Kruger in a room that hasn't been touched in, we'll say, 40, 50 years. There's dirt. There's leaves blowing around, and she's in perfect kneeling position. The nun's outfit is completely snowy white. She touches her. The head turns around, and it is this god-awful looking corpse. Now, here's the problem that I had. It shouldn't have been done that way, because you had the actual physical corpse sitting there, and whenever the head turned, when the soul was released, everything disappeared except for the clothes. I thought that it should be...
Yeah, well, what would you
It should have been something different. I mean, there should have been, like you said, I would have rather seen it something in the walls. To be honest with you, I don't know.
There were no cobwebs. There were no nothing.
Exactly. I mean, it just didn't make sense. I mean, if that's where her bones were, or if that's where her corpse was, or whatever, it should have been more of a hunt to try to find this. But once again, we had to try to end the movie.
Due to time constraints, you're going to find this bones.
It was like a Zelda quest. Here you go.
Yeah, she had to put the bomb on the rock to open the door to go into the roller. I remember that.
I just thought it was, I understand the whole thing of laying Amanda's body to rest and freeing her spirit. I just wish they would have done the imagery in a different way, because, it was neat to see back in 1989. But it just, didn't make sense to me.
I agree. And from there we get more Jacob, and
Amanda finally comes
Amanda does come into the thing, but Jacob all of a sudden has the powers and can attack Freddy. He has Freddy's face on him now. He's wearing, he looks like Freddy, talks like Freddy, and he can attack.
And that's where Amanda tells him you have to use the powers he's given you to defeat him.
Because Alice can't beat him by herself.
Yes.
So,
and that's where Jacob sprouts a 215-foot-long tongue.
Yes, and shoots through Freddy. The baby...
And then
Baby Freddy comes out, I guess you could say.
And Amanda picks him up, and magically he goes back into her womb.
Yes.
Jacob turns into a small baby. Alice picks him up. So, baby Jacob goes back into her womb. We see the hand come out of Amanda saying, "Hey, to me, I'm going to get you no matter what. You can't stop me." And so she flies back. The doors are opening and closing.
And there's another plot hole. If Freddy was afraid earlier in the movie to go somewhere because where Amanda was, now he can just basically kill her. Why was he afraid of her in the first place?
It was in the script.
Okay. Well, like I'm just saying, another plot hole of many. And then we go back into the real world after this to the scene we saw in the kills.
The picnic.
On the playground. And we see Alice and Yvonne are still alive, along with Alice's dad. We see the girls jump roping. Credits and
Vincent Price's laugh for some ungodly reason.
And the rap song.
And a rap.
The rap song comes on for the credits, which sounded more like I was watching, I don't even know what, like a comedy, I guess I would say. Like,
it just didn't make sense. I wasn't a big fan of rap. I did like some, but it
doesn't belong in this movie.
Completely out of place. You start Elm Street 3 with Dawkins in it, and you go from Dawkins to this. Yes. I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't even know who it was.
Neither, I did not look. I didn't care. It sounded just like a 1988, 89 rap song. Like, it just didn't make sense. It was more like, it sounded like a friend of the director that he just wanted to give props to.
I guess it would be that whole what was cool on MTV.
Exactly.
And you know what? Basically, that's like
what
I said,
Freddy became.
What this has become. It's, Elm Street 3 was where we basically said Freddy started becoming mainstream. 4, he was mainstream. 5 was pushing him to even, would I dare say, stay mainstream, stay relevant.
They had to.
And they forced it.
It's for the money.
Well, exactly. It was for the money. I understand it. And like I said, I hated to see, a good franchise like this suffer because of, once again, I know I said it 3 times. I'm going to say it again. Too many hands in the cookie jars. Too many. I got an idea.
Mm-hmm. Which is what happens with any creative process. If too many people get involved, the product is going to suffer. I think if one person's vision is more recognized, I think you get a lot better story development. You get a lot better character development. You get a better product at the end of the day. Which with anything, I don't think any product should have multiple people. Especially a movie when you have millions of dollars at stake. You should try to make the best you can, and they don't do that with this franchise in any way. They try to.
After 3, no.
They just try to. It seems like every movie is a cash grab, and the movie suffers, and we suffer as fans.
Just messing around here on my phone while you were speaking, and not that I wasn't paying attention to what
cool.
I just found real funny. New Line's official press kit synopsis describes Dream Child's premise as, and I quote, seeking revenge against Alice, Krueger discovers he is too weak to enter her dreams to continue his rampage against humanity. He must find renewed access to the living world and discovers a new victim, the quote, Dream Child, Alice's unborn baby from her affair with boyfriend Dan. Freddy nurtures his comeback by invading the dream stage of the unborn child, hoping to be reborn into the world by Alice's baby. Feeding of the baby's purity, that should have said feeding off the baby's
yes.
purity, that says of right there, he regains enough strength to enter the dreams of Alice's friends.
Wow.
That's a mouthful.
They really churched that up, didn't they? Joe Dierte over here. It's pretty much what we're trying to do is make it more than it is, and it's just not. And I don't think that's what makes Freddy goes into her friends. I think it's her that makes Freddy go into her friends by telling them all about who the hell Freddy is, and making them dream about her. And much like I said in the previous, do you blame her for Kincaid and Joey's deaths in the previous movie, just like I blame her for the 3 deaths in this movie, because she talks to them about Freddy. If you just, out of sight, out of mind, would kill Freddy, basically, she just keeps bringing him back. So she deserves everything she gets, even though she survives. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
I just found another interesting tidbit. Leslie Bohem was the gentleman who was hired to rewrite. He sought to make up a set of rules for what Freddy was doing to get himself into the real world, which might be a little muddy in the movie. A little muddy?
A little muddy in the movie?
Dude, you could have, like, the
mud
monster trucks
bath.
up and, there was less mud than that. It was more than a mud bath.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, we see that you referenced the Freddy rectum in this film. This whole movie
was Freddy's rectum.
Deserves to go down Freddy's rectum. But, yeah. I don't get. I'm.
And you know what? And like I said in the last one, I hate to sit there and bash this movie, but like I felt back in 1989. Hey, I wanted to see the 5th one. Let's see what's going on. They put out posters before this movie was even made, and it was hey, what's going on? We got the Dream Child. Oh, what's going on? And it just didn't deliver.
No, and that's like I said. The movie suffers because I just think they made it way too difficult. Freddy is a dream demon.
Yeah.
You fall asleep, you dream of Freddy, he kills you. That should have been the premise throughout the franchise. Mm-hmm. And the sad fact is, it wasn't. And we would have been happy with it. I would have been happy with it.
I would have been happy with it too.
Okay, you hear about Freddy, you start dreaming of Freddy. That's the only way he gets power. He kills people. Keep it simple, folks.
Yeah.
If we can go back 30 years and tell people, stop complicating Freddy, I wish we could. But we got some pretty bad movies because of the fact that they tried to make it way more complicated, way more complex than it needed to be. The reason why Nightmare on Elm Street 1 was so good was its simplicity, which was true for a lot of horror movies back then.
Right.
You keep them simple, you let the viewers enjoy the show, they go home. That's it.
How much more simple can you get than, a mother killing people that are trying to open up a camp because they let her son drown? There's your premise.
That's it. That's all we needed.
Simple.
But I'm glad there are directions they can take that franchise. We're talking about Friday the 13th.
I'm just talking about the idea, though.
Yes.
I mean,
keep the simple idea because that's what made it so good.
Exactly.
Exactly. Other than that, do you have anything else to talk about with Nightmare 5?
Absolutely not.
Okay, we're going to go to our ratings here. What do you rate this film?
You know what? Why don't you tell me yours first? Because I've gone first before.
My rating is a 1 out of 10, strictly for the fact that I appreciate somebody creating something and putting it out there to the public, which is what we are doing, what I've been doing for years with podcasts, which is what they do with movies. So I have to appreciate the art of it and the effort it takes to make a movie because I know how hard that is. So 1 out of 10, but worst movie so far that we reviewed in the franchise to me.
I gave it a 1 out of 10 simply because I think a 0 just is cheating.
You can't, you have to.
Yes, I understand.
Even a 0.5 is the rating.
You know what? Yes, I understand. People were trying to create, and yes, it does take a lot. And I know there's, time constraints and things that you have to meet, but
especially with these movies.
Yes,
it seems like they always every year needing a movie out.
Well, you put out 3 movies in 3 years.
Yeah.
5, 4, and 3. What was it? 87, 88, 89?
Pretty much.
Give us a little break.
We would have been fine with that.
Take the time to go, okay, we have to make Elm Street 4. Let's go back and review 3. Where were we at? And let's continue that. Hey, I got an idea. We're just going to completely throw everything out of the series, and we're going to try to make our own movie. But we're going to sprinkle a little bit of 3 in there. So, not to talk about a different franchise, but Halloween suffered with that with the Season of the Witch.
Yes, it did.
So, I see that as a separate movie.
Which is what they wanted, actually. And they realized, okay, we can't take it in this direction because Halloween is synonymous with Michael Myers. And they knew right from the get-go, Part 4, we have to make the return of Michael Myers because we didn't have to... They wanted it to be more of an anthology series.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't going to work. They would have. I'm a firm believer today. If Season of the Witch was a standalone movie without the Halloween title, it would be a classic horror movie from the 80s today. But because it has a Halloween title, it gets a stigma of being a bad movie just because it's part of that franchise. But I like the movie. I just don't think it should have a Halloween
I
title.
also like the movie, but I like it as a standalone movie. I agree with you on that. Whenever Halloween comes around, October rolls around, and we do our horror movie, shotgunning movies or whatever, and when we watch the Halloweens, it's 1, 2, 4. We watch the third one completely separate
it doesn't
to
belong.
anything watching that has to deal with Michael Myers.
It does not belong. Halloween is Michael Myers, period. End of story. I don't think the Silver Shamrock thing needed a Halloween title. It could have just, you had Atkins. You could have just had a movie, him going to kill or trying to defeat this corporation. I would have loved that without the Halloween title. So we'll get into that franchise eventually, of course. But other than that, that is a wrap on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5.
Rap.
Thank goodness.
Rap.
Rap goes with a rap song. Crap. And our top list for today. We have another top 5 list of top 5 origin stories.
Yep.
So we'll just keep that going with number 5 for you.
My number 5 is Ghostface. And the whole reason why I picked Ghostface as 5 was Billy Loomis, which I love the name, plays in that movie.
And of course.
His father being taken away from him by
Sidney's mom, causing the divorce.
Causing the divorce. Yeah, too many names going through my head right now. But yeah, it was a great idea for, maybe not original, but it was a great idea for, a revenge plot in a horror movie.
And what's funny is his partner in crime, Stu, didn't even know this. He kept it a secret.
Exactly.
Stu
was just a stoner.
Well, he was a scapegoat, I think.
Yeah.
He was going to be if Billy needed to get away, Stu was the killer.
He was definitely.
But, yeah.
But that's my whole reason for Ghostface being number 5.
All right, cool. My number 5 is Hellraiser, Pinhead.
Interesting.
I think the history of, the war veteran and then selling his, basically selling his soul to the devil and becoming a demon to take souls down into hell.
I didn't get much into the Hellraisers after number 1, but that's
I don't have every little detail about it, but I do like that we do get a lot of the backstory of who Pinhead was throughout the series. So I think that's a good origin story because it does continue throughout the franchise. So, but it's my number 5. So, what's your number 4?
Jason Voorhees.
Okay.
Well, Jason Voorhees / Mrs. Voorhees.
Pamela, yes.
We'll just say, it was great for a mom's revenge. And once again, it's another revenge story. They're going to open up the camp where my son drowned because they were off having sex, and I'll be damned if this is going to happen again. So maybe she took it a little bit too far. Maybe she should have had a protest, maybe signed some things, but no, she went around and started killing.
Yeah, I mean, she could easily just destroyed the cabins and made so they couldn't have a camp. But yeah, I do like that. Well,
as far as Jason's origin, I mean, that's kind of a different story. It's kind of, I don't want to say flat, but anyway.
It's really up for interpretation, too.
Yes. Your number 4, sir.
My number 4 is Norman Bates from Psycho.
That's a good one.
This is pretty much my only non-slasher in my list, but I like it's another thing with the mother aspect. He couldn't deal with the mother's death, dug her up, puts her in the home, the iconic Norman Bates home. And I just like that backstory of this disturbed man, mama's boy, basically, which is a lot like Jason. Yeah, just creating this killer and doing the the drag thing, much like Leatherface, I guess. But yeah, I think that's a good story.
Oh, yeah, I'll agree with you on that one.
And what is your number 3?
This might be a shocker. No, it's not shocker.
Okay.
Jacob Goodnight from See No Evil.
Good.
Once again, a mama's boy,
abused
child, but forced with, wash the sins away. Very, very domineering, very religious-driven mother, driving him to, basically brainwash him. You have to, there's no such thing as, you have to get rid of evil and plucking the eyes out.
Females are evil to him.
Exactly. You have to, they're dirty. Don't do this. Don't do, anything with them. I just liked it. And I was always a fan of Kane.
I'm a huge fan of those movies.
I thought he was a great great
killer.
stalker.
Great killer. Not only his size, but his his ability to look like a killer in the films. And
Exactly.
Exactly. We always talk about, who's the scariest person portraying a slasher because they do switch a lot. He definitely deserves to be up there.
Sure he does. You're number 3.
My number 3 is Freddy. We've talked about this too much, so I'm not going to get too into it, but it is the story of him originally being the child murderer, getting killed by the townspeople to save their children's lives. It's just a good backstory, I think. It holds up. I think you can make that anything you want it to be, but just keeping it simple. Freddy Krueger killed kids. This is why he is what he is.
Vigilante justice.
Yeah, so it's just a good backstory to me. If they don't fuck it up.
And they did.
Yes. Number 2.
Michael Myers. And Michael Myers got number 2. Mm-hmm. And once again, I was flopping between 2 and 1. Michael's whole backstory, if you go for the original series, is told basically all in your mind. I mean, you see a little bit of what he did at the beginning with his sister and the mask and everything, but Loomis telling you everything. He was pure evil, this and that. Let your mind make up, okay, what happened? What did he do? What caused him to do this? And God forbid I sound like I'm slamming Rob Zombie because I enjoyed his interpretation. Rob did too much backstory of Michael as a young kid, where the original let our minds wander and figure out what was going on. Rob kind of spoon-fed it to us. I'm not taking anything away from his movie. It's just, it was a different vision.
Yep. Well, my number 2 is also Michael Myers, so I will just elaborate a little bit more. I love the fact that there is a backstory that continues for 40 years. There is a backstory that is simple, but still leaves it up to interpretation for the viewer. I don't like what you brought up with Rob Zombie, that he always feels the need to throw it in people's faces and be so upfront. I like the John Carpenter way of movie making, of leaving it up to the viewer.
Mysterious.
And it makes it scarier because who's worse or who's better at creating our own bad thoughts than ourselves? So he left it up for our own minds to create the evil of Michael Myers. So, and for its longevity, it just is what it is. He has a very good backstory. And you're number 1.
My number 1 is the gentleman that we reviewed today, Freddy Krueger. And basically just because of everything, I guess I can reiterate a little bit. Mm-hmm. And child murderer, vigilante justice, he becomes something different. We find out later on in the series how he became who he was. And it was, at the time, a very original backstory. It could have been so much more.
So simple, it was so good. It could have been just simple and good.
Well, it could. I don't want to say that it needed to be more, but it could have been so much more if everything after number 1 was done correctly, or if number 1 was the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it is okay to have just one movie.
Absolutely.
I get the money making; it is a business, but for the viewer, I'd be fine having one killer, one movie, and just letting it marinate for years, and just create something from one movie instead of having to every year be in your face. We know what to expect.
Exactly. And, every year putting a movie out and risking bastardizing what actually came out. And we, like I said, we've seen it in the last 2 episodes we've done.
Pretty much. And my number 1 is Jason. Much like Michael, he does have a very simple backstory that they kind of kept. Actually, this is probably the reason it's my number 1 is because it did keep its roots of the story. We always will know that Jason is a boy who drowned in a lake who is coming back to avenge his mother's murder. That has never changed. So to me, that makes it number 1 just because of its. They did stick with that storyline, even though some of the movies aren't as good as the others. That storyline always been true. And you have to respect the fact that nobody came in and said, oh, no, he didn't. This isn't what happened. This is what happened. They didn't try to change anything. It's always Jason killing for his mother.
If you don't agree, it's not that I don't agree. Up to a certain point with the Friday the 13th, and I agree with everything that you said about it, except for the fact that we kind of lost the fact that Jason is avenging his mother from 6 on. He goes to New York. He goes into outer space, which, hey, you know what? I love Jason as well as any other slasher fan, but I think somewhere down the line, somewhere around maybe even 5, after they supposedly cut his brain in half in number 4, they lost the premise and it suffered what Elm Street did.
But see, that's the thing.
Let's go make the money.
That's the thing, though. They never. Yes, I said the movies did suffer.
Yes.
But they never made a movie where they turned around and said, "Okay, what you knew from the get-go isn't true." They never did that.
Okay.
Yeah, they did go to space. Yeah, he did follow them to Manhattan in the last 10 minutes of a movie. But they originally were at Camp Crystal Lake. And I just think there's no movie. They never tried to change the origin story, which makes it true. So we were never.
And I respect your opinion. I just think there was a little bit where they lost that. It almost got to be like Jason was defending his turf.
Yeah, which is fine.
And
that's fine with me.
Which is fine, but
that's hollowed ground to him.
Yeah,
he's defending where his mother was murdered and where he supposedly died as a boy. So to me, that makes sense. He is defending his territory, which is a good thing to me because it keeps it simple. It keeps it, there's a killer defending this ground. You enter his ground, you're going to die.
I'll take it under advisement.
There you go.
Never thought of it that way. That's a good thing.
So that's why he was my number 1.
Okay.
And yeah, other than that, that's a good list. I mean, if you're done, I'm done.
Well, I tell you what, I'm done with Elm Street 5, The Dream Child.
Mm-hmm.
I guess until next week then.
Yes. So once again for episode 5 of Slashcast, I was Jim.
And I'm still Chevy.
And we will see you next time for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6.
Freddy's dead.
Thanks for listening. Until next time.
See you later.